Alright, I'm back again. I'm going to try to make this as brief as possible because I have a freaking headache. We are rolling out entirely new systems at work today, and not only were we not adequately trained, there's a lot of stuff we're finding that was never covered in training we're having to figure out on our own. But these systems, the new system for what my department does, is actually more labor intensive than what we had before. Fun times. But I do have two things I want to discuss. The first is Nikki Haley did a poll. It was kind of like a soft primary, I guess, for lack of a better term. No delegates. That didn't go as well as she would have liked. And the second one is people are saying Tucker Carlson for going to Russia to do a interview with Putin may be sanctioned over it. That's where I'm going to run long if I do anything. On Nikki Haley, like I said, this is is kind of like a primary, but not really. There's no delegates awarded in Nevada. And she lost, I believe the number was like 2-1 almost. And who she lost to was, ironically enough, no candidate listed, was more or less what it was coded as, because Trump did not file for it. How bad do you have to be for you to freaking lose to we choose no one? And the number was 2-1. If you're Nikki Haley, you basically have to be questioning whether or not your candidacy can go on, especially when Ronna McDaniels is apparently out as the head of the GOP. She's pretty much considering herself done for, which, truth be told, is a long time coming. She was god awful. But yeah, if you're Nikki Haley, do you even try to hold on to the South Carolina primary when you see that? That's what I want to know. Or do you stay until you get to South Carolina, your home state, the next real major primary, and see if you actually, where delegates are actually awarded, do you hold out to that to see if you have a snowball's chance in anywhere of succeeding? When you lose almost 2-1 to nobody, you have to have serious doubts. All right, now to the fun one. Rumors have abound that Tucker Carlson may be face sanctions because he went to Russia and did an interview with Putin. This one kind of pisses me off. Not because I like Tucker Carlson or Putin or anything else. But Russia is a sanctioned country. And that's what it more or less comes to. We have had people go to sanctioned countries and meet with their leaders and do interviews. I believe Barbara Walters was quite close with Fidel Castro. No sanctions. I believe other people have actually met with Putin, possibly even after he was sanctioned, and done interviews, journalists. No sanctions. But Tucker Carlson allegedly might face sanctions for going to meet with Putin. Tell me this is not a political hit, or tell me this is a political hit without saying it's a political hit. And there's been a few other instances where people are saying political hit. I mean, look at what Trump is. There are people who don't like Trump that I know who are saying that he's guilty of sin, but the whole reason they are going after him is to keep him from running. And they're saying political hit. Other countries are saying political hit. You have to, at this point, question the legitimacy of our government when they do something like that. And when you consider Tucker Carlson, yeah, he's independent news media at this point, I believe it is. But still, he has, if memory serves me right, he still has press credentials, does he not? So what's with the freedom of the press? To hell with the First Amendment, right? And by the way, that's why we have the Second Amendment, is to protect the First and all the others. Here's something that's even worse still. Do you know what opens the door to peace? It's dialogue, communication. And our politicians, in Washington especially, tend to be closed door when it comes to interacting with Russia. The stodgy old codgers they are. And Russia has the same thing too. Until both sides are willing to actually talk, there can be no progress to actual peace. And the thing is, if we open dialogue, maybe, just maybe, we can find some things going on, not only that can improve ourselves, but maybe there's some other things where we can realize maybe they have some good points. I mean, remember how pissed off they were when Putin came out and said, you do know the reason why ISIL, whatever you want to call them, is doing so well is because a lot of Western countries, such as the United States, is funding them. Do you remember that? I do. And was not part of the reason why Russia decided to go to Ukraine, was it not because of the corruption of the Ukrainian government? How many Ukrainian officials have been ousted over embezzling funds that countries like the United States have sent so that they can defend themselves against Russia? Wasn't it like 40 officials or a group of officials just in the past few days that did millions and millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars? Was not their entire Defense Department, I think it was, did they not get axed over that? Over corruption? Do you see what I'm getting at? While you may not like Putin, you may not like what he's doing in Ukraine, maybe this is a situation where the path to hell was paved with good intentions. And yes, war is hell. There's a quote from TV show MASH about that. I don't remember it right offhand, or I would quote it. But yeah, when you think about it, and run the scenarios of what if. What if Putin had been saying for years, you do know that there's an issue with Nazis in Ukraine. Hey, you know they're killing people in Ukraine, Crimea. There's mass graves there. Hey, you know, their new government is corrupt. What if they had been saying that for years and no one listened? And the only way they can get it, and they're using this as a way to get attention. And by the way, if I think to look into this, when I get home, I'll have some good links down below in the description, such as before the lockdowns hit, Ukraine was being investigated for human rights violations. by the United Nations. Of course, it didn't get taken seriously, and those are pretty much been swept under the rug at this point. But do you see what I'm getting at? Maybe Putin does have some valid points. And if he has some valid points, if the dialogue is created to where the people can see, hey, maybe he does have a point or two. Maybe the people then can put pressure on our governments, the governments of the world, to say, actually listen, open the dialogue with them. And maybe, just maybe, have a snowball's chance in something or another to, I don't know, bridge some gaps, create some bridges of peace, get rid of, leftover Cold War, ill will. Jackwagon cut over in front of me, slowed down, then tried to cut over in front of me again. I tell you, people are effort loving crazy. But yeah, that's... Why didn't they go from the left lane to the right lane to the left lane to turn left? That's the second time today I've had something similar to that happen. Oh well. Squirrel. But yeah, if we can just force the dialogue, force communication, maybe, just maybe, peace will have a chance. And can you imagine what would happen if we could normalize relations with Russia? Well, suddenly China would lose one of their buddies that they've run to turn on us. What about North Korea? Some of those countries in the Middle East would be a little less bolsterous too. See what I'm getting at? For far too long, Western countries, especially the United States, have been kind of just going about trying to have our way with the world. It's the us or them, us or them, us or them. You gotta choose us or them. Could you imagine the change that we could enact on the world if we just found a way to make peace between the United States and Russia? I mean, think about all the harm that was done with that crap during the Cold War. How many parts of the world we destabilized in the Middle East, Central South America, and Asia. Think about it. Look into that. Highly recommend. And if we were to come together and work as a united front, some of those dictators, some of which we put in power ourselves, and then they kind of went rogue, maybe just a maybe. We can do something about that. We can improve the quality of life for those people. We can make the world a better place. We won't have, maybe we wouldn't spend quite so much effort and money trying to take on the world and police the world and everything else, and then we can fix everything we have going on here. Fix our infrastructure, fix our own government, fix our education system. So much stuff we could fix if we appropriated the appropriate amounts of time, effort, and money into it. And if that's all it takes is Tucker Carlson going to Russia and opening that dialogue. To begin the first steps, why wouldn't we want to do that? You would think people would be excited to try and do something to make the world a better place, a little less dangerous, a little less, blow nuclear war. You would think that people would want that. But it seems like they're more interested in trying to see who can wipe who off the face of the planet. They want to point fingers and say names and call names and everything else. They want to divide and conquer, divide and conquer, as the old saying goes. Keep us divided, keep the world divided. And for what? For what? Their buddies get richer, they get richer. And what happens to the rest of us? We get taxed to death, we might get blown up, sent to war, what have you. Not including the debt that gets racked up by our governments when we do stuff like this. It's just my thoughts on the matter. Like I said, I'll try and provide a few links. All we need to do with Russia is extend the olive branch. Maybe get to dialogue. If enough people on both sides want it enough, maybe our stupid governments will set aside their, contrarian ideologies from 40 years ago. And we can actually do some good. But I guess instead of trying to make the world a little bit better, they're just going to go the opposite route and penalize anyone who tries to do so, who tries to open that door. Let me know what you think. Later.